chocolate chip cookies. Ruth Wakefield was not trying to invent anything. In 1938, she was running the Toll House Inn in Massachusetts and making a batch of buttered drop cookies. She ran out of baker's chocolate and broke a Nestle chocolate bar into pieces, assuming it would melt and incorporate into the dough the way her usual chocolate did. It did not melt. The pieces stayed intact, creating something no one had ever eaten before. She served them anyway. Guests loved them. She made a deal with Nestle to print her recipe on the chocolate bar packaging in exchange for a lifetime supply of chocolate. Nestle got the recipe. She got free chocolate forever. Nestle eventually bought the rights outright, and the Toll House chocolate chip cookie recipe printed on every bag of Nestle morsels is still Ruth's original formula. One failed substitution, a lifetime of free chocolate, and the most popular cookie in the world. Cornflakes. John Harvey Kellogg was not trying to feed America breakfast. He was running a sanitarium in Battle Creek, Michigan in the 1890s and was obsessed with digestive health and suppressing what he considered unhealthy impulses in his patients. He believed bland food reduced desire and excitement, and he was feeding his patients a strict vegetarian diet. In 1894, he left a batch of cooked wheat out too long. When he rolled it out, instead of forming a flat sheet, it broke into flakes. He toasted them, served them to patients, and they were a hit. His brother Will saw a commercial opportunity, added sugar against John's wishes, and founded the Kellogg Company. The brothers fought about the sugar for years. Will won commercially. John died convinced his brother had ruined the product's health mission. Cornflakes became a billion-dollar industry because someone forgot to cover a bowl. Popsicles. In 1905, an 11-year-old named Frank Epperson left a glass of powdered soda mix and water on his porch overnight in San Francisco, with a stirring stick still in it. The temperature dropped. He found it frozen in the morning. He pulled it out by the stick, ate it, and apparently thought nothing more of it for 18 years. In 1923, he remembered the accident, made a batch, and started selling them at an amusement park in Oakland. They were called Epsicles at first. His kids called them Popsicles. The name stuck. He patented the idea in 1924 and sold the rights to the Joe Low Company, which turned Popsicle into a national brand. An 11-year-old's forgetfulness on a cold night became one of the most recognized frozen treat brands in the world. Potato chips. The popular version of this story involves a difficult customer. In 1853, at Moon's Lake House restaurant in Saratoga Springs, New York, Chef George Crumb kept sending out fried potatoes to a guest, who kept sending them back for being too thick. Crumb, allegedly annoyed, sliced them paper thin, fried them until they could not possibly be cut thinner, and salted them heavily to make the point. The customer loved them. Whether that exact story is true is debated by food historians. What is not debated is that thin fried potato slices, called Saratoga chips at first, became wildly popular from that region and spread nationally. The snack food industry built around potato chips is now worth over $30 billion annually. A petty kitchen dispute, if it happened the way the story says, generated more economic value than almost any deliberate food invention in history. Microwave popcorn. Percy Spencer was an engineer at Raytheon working with magnetrons, the devices that produce microwave radiation used in radar systems, in 1945. He was standing near an active magnetron when he noticed a chocolate bar in his pocket had melted. Curious rather than concerned, he started experimenting with other foods. Eggs exploded. Popcorn kernels popped. The microwave oven he developed was initially the size of a refrigerator and cost thousands of dollars. It took decades of refinement before it became the countertop appliance in 90% of American homes. The specific discovery of microwave popcorn as a consumer product came later, when manufacturers developed the paper bag with embedded fats that could be popped directly in the microwave. But the whole chain started with a melted candy bar Spencer did not remember putting in his pocket. Coca-Cola. John Pemberton was a pharmacist in Atlanta trying to make a medicinal tonic in 1886. His original formula, Pemberton's French wine coca, contained wine, coca leaf extract, and cola nut. When Atlanta passed prohibition legislation in 1886, He needed a non-alcoholic version and replaced the wine with sugar syrup. The resulting syrup was mixed with water in pharmacies as a patent medicine sold for 5 cents a glass, claimed to cure headaches and morphine addiction. At some point, carbonated water was mixed with the syrup instead of still water, either by accident or by a pharmacist trying to make something interesting. The carbonated version tasted dramatically better. Pemberton sold most of his stake in the formula before he died in 1888, eventually receiving almost nothing for what became the most recognized brand on earth. Asa Candler bought the rights for about $2,300 and turned it into the Coca-Cola Company. Worcestershire sauce. In the 1830s, Lord Marcus Sandys of Worcester, England, asked chemists John Wheely Lee and William Perrins to recreate a sauce he had tasted in India. They mixed the ingredients, tasted it, found it terrible, and left the barrel in the cellar. 2 years later, they found it again, tasted it out of curiosity, and discovered fermentation had transformed it into something remarkable. The fish, vinegar, tamarind, molasses, onions, and spices had spent 2 years breaking down and recombining into a complex, deeply savory condiment. They bottled it, called it Lee and Perrins Worcestershire sauce, and it has been in continuous production since 1837. The original terrible recipe, sitting forgotten in a cellar, became one of the most enduring condiments in food history. The Lee and Perrins name is still on every bottle. Cheese. Nobody has a recorded name for the person who invented cheese, because it was discovered roughly 10,000 years ago. The leading theory is that someone transported milk in a pouch made from a calf's stomach, which contains the enzyme renin. The enzyme, combined with the warmth of travel, caused the milk to curdle and separate into solid curds and liquid whey. The traveler, facing the choice between discarding the curdled milk or eating it, ate it. What they found was that the curds were edible, faintly flavorful, and more shelf-stable than fresh milk. Every variety of cheese that has ever existed, every brie, every parmesan, every cheddar aged 5 years, every fresh ricotta, all of it descends from that accident. The entire category started because someone's stomach pouch did something unexpected to the milk inside it. Champagne. The story gives credit to Dom Pérignon, a Benedictine monk in northeastern France. But the history is more complicated. The double fermentation that creates champagne's bubbles was long considered a defect. Still wine re-fermented in the bottle, creating pressure, and bottles exploded. It was a winery disaster. English merchants who were importing French wines and bottling them in stronger English glass discovered that the fizzy result was enjoyable rather than ruined. Dom Pérignon spent significant effort trying to stop the bubbles, not create them. By the time he died in 1715, sparkling wine was becoming fashionable in England, and the French eventually embraced what they had spent decades trying to eliminate. The famous quote attributed to him, "Come quickly, I am drinking stars," was almost certainly invented by a later champagne marketer. The bubbles were a brewing accident that multiple people tried to fix before anyone thought to celebrate them. Ice cream cones. The 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis had dozens of vendors. One of them, an ice cream seller named Arnold Fornacieux, ran out of dishes. His neighbor was a Syrian pastry vendor named Ernest Hamwi, who was selling zalabia, a thin, crispy, waffle-like pastry that was not selling well. Hamwi rolled his waffles into cones and handed them to Fornacieux to use as edible dishes. The combination worked so well that multiple vendors at the same fair claimed to have invented the ice cream cone simultaneously. There were lawsuits and competing origin stories for years afterward. But the basic fact is that a supply shortage at a fair in 1904 created the standard delivery vehicle for one of the most popular desserts in the world. The cone is now inseparable from the ice cream it was invented to hold in an emergency. Tarte tatin. In 1898, at the Hotel Tatin in La Motte-Bouvron, France, Stéphanie Tatin was making a traditional apple tart. She left the apples cooking in butter and sugar too long, and they began to burn. Rather than start over, she placed the pastry crust directly on top of the burning apples in the pan and put it in the oven. When it was done, she flipped the whole thing over, put it on a plate, and served it upside down with the caramelized apples on top. It was not what she intended. It was significantly better than what she intended. The Hotel Tatin served it for years. The recipe spread through the French countryside and eventually made it onto menus worldwide. Tarte Tatin is now the generic name for any upside-down fruit tart, a category invented because a woman saved a ruined tart rather than throwing it away. Nachos. In 1943, a group of wives of American soldiers stationed at Fort Duncan in Eagle Pass, Texas, crossed the border to Piedras Negras, Mexico, looking for dinner. They arrived at the Victory Club restaurant after it had closed for the evening. The maitre d', Ignacio Anaya, did not want to send them away empty. He went to the kitchen and found tortillas and cheese, cut the tortillas into triangles, covered them with shredded cheese, topped them with sliced pickled jalapenos, and put them under the broiler. He served them and the women loved them, asking what they were called. Ignacio, whose nickname was Nacho, said they were nachos especiales, nachos specials. The dish spread from Piedras Negras through Texas and eventually across the entire country. Nachos became a staple of stadiums, movie theaters, and bar menus everywhere. A late-night improvisation with leftover ingredients by a man who did not want to disappoint a group of hungry customers became one of the defining dishes of American sports culture.